Welcome back. You know that feeling when you really want to understand something deeply, get those aha moments, but maybe without feeling totally swamped?
Absolutely. That's the sweet spot.
Well, that's what we're aiming for today. We're doing a deep dive into a really interesting article by Shiva Narayan Taxshila Page. It explores two quite distinct ways people seem to learn.
Exactly. And it's more than just study tips. The article introduces this whole framework, brain page-based learnography. It positions it as potentially transformative.
Right. So our mission today is to really unpack the difference between what the author calls X learners and Y learners.
To understand what makes them tick, according to this model, and why the author thinks this distinction is so, well, important.
Okay, let's paint a picture then,
Yeah.
starting with the Y learners.
Mhm.
The article suggests these are the folks who tend to wait a bit more.
Yeah, waiting for instructions, needing explanations laid out, often looking for that external nod, that validation.
So quite reliant on the teacher as the main source, almost passive in a, typical classroom setting.
That's the picture painted. And there are specific traits mentioned, right? Like being yes learners, always needing that confirmation.
Yes, learners. Okay.
Dependent on teachers not just for the concepts, but often for the solutions too. And their focus might be more on, say, passing the test.
Rather than tackling messy real-world problems.
Precisely. And maybe a kind of underlying fear of getting it wrong, a hesitation to just jump in and experiment.
Okay, that's quite a clear profile. Now, how does the X learner differ? It sounds like a complete flip.
It really is presented as a stark contrast. The article calls them the builders of their own knowledge. These aren't the ones waiting passively.
They're proactive then, seeking things out.
Exactly. Actively looking for knowledge, building skills, and this seems key, doing it through action, not just listening.
Through action.
Okay.
What does that look like?
Well, the article details specific traits. They apparently pull knowledge directly from source materials using something called the Classroom Operating System, or CROS.
CROS. Okay, we'll need to unpack that.
Definitely. And they focus on creating brain page modules, a way to really embed knowledge for the long haul.
Brain page modules. So active construction.
Right. Mastery comes from performing tasks, not just absorbing lectures. The end goal is becoming an independent thinker, someone who can analyze, apply, even innovate.
It's like the student becomes the architect, not just the tenant in the house of knowledge.
That's a great way to put it. The article uses that exact phrase, knowledge architect. And it describes the learning itself as motor-driven, memory-activated, and goal-focused.
Motor-driven. That leads into the science bit, doesn't it? The article tries to ground this in neuroscience.
It does. It brings in system learnography, linking it to how we learn physical skills, like, say, riding a bike or playing piano.
Through practice, repetition.
Exactly. The idea is that actively engaging with information mentally and sometimes physically builds much stronger memory circuits. It's not just passive reception.
So how does that work in the brain, according to the article? What's being activated?
It mentions specific areas, the substantia nigra and the basal ganglia getting involved during this task-based learning. These are areas linked to habit formation, procedural memory.
Ah, okay, so you're building pathways through doing.
Pretty much. Building those neural pathways for easier recall later. It also mentions something called cyclizide rehearsal.
Cyclizide rehearsal.
Yeah, described as the brain's own internal system for consolidating stuff into long-term memory. The big takeaway here is tasks, not lessons, are the core units of knowledge transfer for these X learners.
Which leads to understanding and application, not just memorization.
That's the claim. Deeper understanding, ability to use the knowledge.
Now, the article uses a symbol, delta, which most people know from math or science.
Yes, the triangle. And it's used very intentionally here.
Representing change, obviously, but change in what?
Change in learning independence. It represents that journey, that transformation from being a more dependent Y learner towards becoming a self-directed X learner. It's a metric for that shift.
A metric. So what specific things does this delta measure?
The article lists a few key areas. Improvements in how fast you pick things up, so knowledge acquisition speed.
Okay, speed.
Memory strength and how accurately you can retrieve information. Confidence in tackling problems. And interestingly, real-world readiness, which it even links to earning potential.
Wow, okay. So delta becomes this sort of metric of mastery, showing the path from dependence to self-direction.
That's exactly how the article positions it. It quantifies that journey.
All right, this sounds quite compelling. But if someone's listening and thinking, maybe I lean more towards the Y side right now, What are the practical steps? How do you actually start becoming an X learner? The article gives some pointers, right?
It does lay out some actionable steps. First one is a mindset shift, really. Actively go explore source materials yourself. Don't wait to be spoon-fed. It calls this book-to-brain knowledge transfer.
Book to brain. Okay, proactive exploration. What else?
Second, reframe learning. Break it down into tasks, not just lessons. Treat each concept like a kind of mission you need to accomplish.
Makes sense. Active goal setting.
Third is about processing it. Don't just listen or underline. Develop these brain pages through active rehearsal, writing things out, really wrestling with the material.
So creating something, not just consuming.
Exactly. Fourth, use that CROS thing, the classroom operating system, to navigate your learning more independently. Less reliance on constant instruction.
Okay, using tools for independence. And the last one.
Track your own delta. Pay attention to your growth in skills, knowledge, experience, and that crucial independence. Self-monitoring.
Right. Taking ownership and tracking progress. Now, this isn't just about school, is it? The article emphasizes the importance of this beyond the classroom.
Oh, absolutely. That's a major point. The argument is that the real world doesn't just reward good test takers.
It rewards problem solvers.
Problem solvers, creators, critical thinkers, yeah, people who can figure things out.
So it contrasts the futures. Ex-learners building careers, maybe starting companies.
Tackling complex issues, yeah.
Yeah,
Versus Y learners who might struggle more to adapt, always waiting for the next set of instructions.
that's a powerful statement in the article. The future belongs to those who own their learning.
It really is. It positions X-learners not just as survivors in that future, but as the ones actually shaping it.
Which brings us to the core question the article puts out there, right?
Mm-hmm. It asks the listener, point blank, are you still waiting to be taught? Or are you ready to take control of your learning journey?
It really forces you to think about your own approach, X or Y.
That fundamental choice. And the article doesn't leave it there. It has a pretty clear call to action.
Which is?
Basically, start building your brain page.
Yeah.
Actively work to become that thinker, leader, earner you want to be. It invites people to join the learnography revolution and discover your X.
And it also mentions supporting the tools, like the classroom operating system and the Taxshila model itself.
Yes, as ways to foster more of these independent thinkers, empowering that shift.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway from this dive into the article seems to be this fundamental split.
Yeah, between the Y learner, more passive, reliant on guidance, and the X learner, active, independent, building their knowledge through tasks and these brain pages.
Within that learnography framework.
Right. And that final question really lingers, doesn't it? Are you waiting or are you taking charge?
It's definitely something to reflect on. Thinking about our own habits, maybe identifying one small step toward more X-style learning.
Exactly. What could you do differently next time you need to learn something new? It's a great prompt for self-reflection.